Thomas Jefferson once said, "A wise and frugal government shall not take from the mouth of labor the bread it has earned." Through this quote, Jefferson tells us that any well-run government should not rely upon its people's livelihood. We must keep this ideal in mind when we look to the question posed to us today.
Our topic tells us that currently American corporations are leaving the United States due to our corporate tax rate. From a global perspective, America has one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world, arguably the highest among developed countries. From this information, the question arises, should the United States lower the corporate tax rate in favor of keeping companies within America?
In addressing this question, we stand in strong affirmation to argue that the United States should lower the corporate tax rate. Our stance relies upon our strong capitalistic society, the likely increase in competition for corporations, and the possible long-term economic growth.
Our first point discusses our capitalistic society and its impact on our topic today. From its founding, the United States has created a country based on the ideals of free enterprise. This can be seen through the lives of American citizens, but also through the freedoms allotted to corporations.
Now, within any country, taxes are necessary. However, the true problem lies within the exorbitant rate that corporations are now forced to pay. According to the New York Times, for the 2012 fiscal year, the American corporate tax rate was set at 35%. Japan, the country closest to this figure, had a corporate tax rate of approximately 30%.
Included in this 35% rate, the United States taxes foreign profits as well as domestic. This is in stark contrast to the majority of other countries as they solely tax domestic profits. For the United States, this directly counters our founding principles in that the goal of capitalism is to allow corporations to make decisions regarding financing privately.
Leaving companies with only 65% of their actual profit poses an unnecessary obstacle to these decisions. By lowering the corporate tax rate, we not only aid current corporations within America, but we help to start the implementation of our capitalistic ideals for future corporations within the United States.
Next, we will discuss the economic increase that is likely to occur after a corporate tax cut. According to the Wall Street Journal in 2011, the United States lost over 2.4 million jobs as a direct result of company outsourcing. Investments within the United States also dropped 25% due to this substantial rate.
These statistics show that there is a direct correlation between the increase in the corporate tax rate and the decrease in America's viability as a business location. Following this line of logic, we can infer that a decrease in the corporate tax rate would lead to an increase in America's viability, essentially drawing more businesses back to the United States.
Along with the rise of more businesses in the United States, the U.S. would also experience a growing international economy. In addition to the continued sustenance of our international economy, the U.S. would also experience a growing domestic economy.
Now, our final point of discussion revolves around the possible long-term economic growth that would be possible with the lowering of the corporate tax rate. The Huffington Post reports that in 2012, China had previously cut their corporate tax rate down to 25% from 33%. Within the following year, they saw foreign investment rise 30% and a total economic gain of 10%.
As these statistics show, historically, monetary gains are likely to be made after a corporate tax cut. Opponents argue that the inverse is true, and that the United States would experience an economic downturn due to the decrease in governmental revenue.
Contrary to this line of thought, the study goes on to say that a 2011 study by the American Enterprise Institute found that by cutting the corporate tax rate down to just 26.4%, we could generate up to $748 billion more in additional tax revenue over the next 10 years. Essentially what we're seeing is that by cutting the corporate tax rate, we can have a long-term fiscal gain.
In conclusion, the current excessive corporate tax rate imposed on U.S. corporations is not only against the founding ideals of America, but it prohibits future corporate and fiscal expansion. This expansion would be linked to the future viability of American business ventures and a surge of commercial profits.
Now, looking back to the words of Thomas Jefferson, a government will only prosper if it does not rely upon its citizens' sustenance. Thank you. No further questions?
Thanks, Rick. So, if we were to cut the tax rate, what if the corporation just doesn't want to come back to the United States?
Well, what we can see is that if we're going to cut tax rate, it would prove to be more beneficial for the corporations. And once again, we look to our capitalistic society. We look to the fact that businesses within the United States are more free to do what they would like. And if we cut the corporate tax rate, that would invite more businesses to come here because it's essentially making them more profit and invoking this profit in a free environment.
And we can also see that from the evidence that we've said within our case, that historically there has been a direct correlation between the increase in corporate taxes and the decrease in the businesses that have come to the United States. So historically, we would see an increase in businesses coming to the United States because of our decrease in the corporate tax rate.
But in the future, when financial hardships like we kind of have now, and the tax rate will probably go up anyway, will that still be a benefit for
actually seeing is that if we lower the corporate tax rate, it would be more beneficial. So we honestly do not believe that the corporate tax rate will be rising anyway. What we can essentially see is that if we lowered it to 26%, we'd be generating up to $700 billion more. So essentially what we can see is that more money will be gained when we lower the corporate tax rate. So therefore corporations will be more willing to stay in the United States, more willing to come to the United States in general.